Hello, and a very happy new year to you, wherever you are watching me from. I'm actually based in France, specifically in Paris, and I'm more than glad to record today's podcast on the 1st of January 2024, which marks the beginning of yet another year. All right. So, I would like to actually ask you a simple question. Have you ever taken a minute of your time to actually reflect or even ponder on, why your New Year's resolution for 2023, you know, hasn't been fulfilled? Why it never come into reality? Have you pondered on that? I am pretty sure that prior to December 2023, you might have sat down again and written a long list of things that you wish to accomplish in 2024. Well, the year has just begun, and I can guarantee you that if care is not taken, you are most likely going to repeat the same mistakes simply because we cannot do the same thing again and again and expect what? Different results. So that brings us to the topic of today's podcast, which is 10 mistakes that you must avoid if you want to have a successful 2024. In other words, if you want your New Year's resolution for 2024 or even the years to come to be fulfilled, then you must make sure you avoid these 10 mistakes. With that said, welcome to Minukuu Levity. All right. Are you ready to start your new year? Mistake number one, to avoid when setting your New Year's resolution or even carrying out your New Year's resolution, is simply the mere illusion that it is a new year, right? In my opinion, we've just taken a break, right? It's just like a lunch break, and we will soon resume work, right? It's just a holiday season for you to, meet with family, travel to wherever you want to travel to, at least have some rest and start all over again. Resume work, right? Because by nature's principle, we cannot stop time, time keeps going. And we just assume that it is a new year. Probably the universe doesn't really recognize how we measure, day and night, how we measure a minute, how we measure a year. So that is our assumption as mankind. So I'm just simply saying all these philosophies simply to tell you that the mere fact that it is a new year, as you may say it, doesn't mean that things are going to change for the better. All right. I'm sorry I'm not trying to be a prophet of the doom, as some people say, but I'm only an informed pessimist. All right. What that means is that I am very, very, very optimistic right, about the future based on the information that I've gathered, based on the resources that I have at my disposal, based on my capabilities, and based on what I think I can do, right? So I am optimistic about the future. However, I am not ignorant about the obstacles that are most likely going to come my way, be them foreseen or unforeseen. For that reason, I choose to be an informed pessimist instead of just assuming that everything is going to be glamorous. All right. Please wake up to reality that the mere fact that it is a new year doesn't mean that things are going to change for the better. Things might get worse, but you have to be ready. So that is mistake number one to avoid when setting or even carrying out your New Year's resolution. Mistake number two to avoid is actually making a mere wish. I will actually call it a mere wish instead of a plan. Okay? A mere wish is not backed by any commitment. Okay? It's just a mere thought, in my opinion. It carries no weight. It's not backed by any action. Okay? So, instead of wishing or hoping or praying, rather plan and execute. You are enough because you are one of the expressions of the divine, one of the expressions of the universe, one of the expressions of the mystery behind the existence of this reality. All right. So you being an expression of this particular mystery means that you are capable of achieving great things and you are limitless. All right. So with that said, you shouldn't be wishing, nor praying, nor, I don't know, rather just know that you are enough and that the universe cannot give you more than you can take. So if your wish is to lose weight, then rather make it what? A plan. Because once you plan, then you are going to what? To be committed to the goals or to that particular plan. And in that case, you'll be courageous and you'll be able to mobilize the resources that you need, starting first of all with what you have. All right. It's just like, for instance, before I decided to record this particular podcast today, or let's say before I even started setting up my studio for a podcast, I already had a YouTube channel known as Minukuu Tutorials, right? Where I would make screen recorded tutorials simply because I had no camera at that time. Neither did I have a soft box. Neither did I have like this mic. None, right? But I was doing what I could with what I had. That is simply because I had a plan, and that was what? To be able to establish a professional podcast like what I have today. And that plan, I had to work on it gradually. All right. So it was a plan. It was all planned out. I never wished. Neither was I praying. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not against prayers or I'm not against that. But, I think we should be grateful for life, right? We should be grateful that this mystery behind our existence gives us life. And if you are in good health and you are kicking, then why ask Him to give you? It's just like to spoon feed you. That is like, to me, it's irresponsible. All right, that is my opinion. So make sure that you don't hope, don't wish, but what? Plan and execute. So make sure that your New Year's resolution is actually a plan, not a mere wish. Mistake number 3 to avoid is actually setting up goals that are not in tune with your reality. And that is simply an extension of what I've said earlier on. That your goal must simply be what? Something that is, it should not just be like a mere wish, all right? It should be something that you are planning to execute. And if you are planning to execute something, then it means that thing must be realistic. It must be in tune with your own reality. What do I mean by that? It must be achievable, all right? Because you can only achieve greater things with what you have. So if you are setting up a goal, you must take into consideration what the resources are that you have at hand. What is your capacity? So if not, then probably it should not be just 2024's New Year resolution, right? You could fix, if you want to achieve something that is much, that would require more time, then you just have to be realistic and then set maybe 10-year plan, 5-year plan, 3-year or 2-year plan, but don't make it a New Year's resolution when you know for a fact that, considering your current capacity, you will not be able to accomplish that within the year. So it should be realistic and it should be in tune with your own reality. That is what I mean. And that brings us to the 4th mistake that you must avoid, right? And that is assuming that things would happen just all of a sudden, right? Things don't happen that way, right? You must trust the process and you must actually fall in love with the process. They always say good things take time, right? That is not a lie. You have to make sure you put in what is required, because the universe or the mystery behind creation compensates us based on our efforts. All right. That is to say, for those who are spiritual or who are religious, I don't know, they might interpret it according to their own philosophies or whatever. But I'm just saying things the way I see them, right? It's all about action and reaction. You give, then you receive. So if you don't give, then you shouldn't expect anything. Right. So with that said, you must fall in love with the process. What does it mean by falling in love with the process? Falling in love with the process would make you actually stay courageous even when things are getting tough. It will actually make you stay motivated and disciplined even when things are getting tough, simply because you understand that it is a process and you have to put in the necessary effort until you reach your goal. And how do you love the process, as people just say it? To actually love the process, you must have a clear purpose for why you are setting up this goal. For example, if you wish to lose weight by 10 pounds, why this objective? Is it to impress people, or you actually have a reason? Is it for health reasons? Are you diabetic? Are you obese? So it must be something that is clearly defined, right? Because that way you will stay focused, because you have a reason why you wouldn't want to fail in achieving this particular goal. And that would always be your ignition. The fifth mistake to avoid is actually feeling entitled. Sometimes we feel like people owe us, or like, but I'm raising this particular point to say, along the way, you should understand that things are going to fail. People that promise you are not going to carry out their promises. You might expect things to go some way and things turn out the other way. So you are not entitled to the universe. You are not entitled to whoever. You are not entitled to any friend. You are not entitled to a sibling. Of course, when their help come, when their support come, that is great. But that will propel you at a much faster pace, right? But you should not count on that. You should know that only you can change your reality, and you are enough. That's why you have to plan. You don't just have to wish, because everybody can build castles in the air. But when you plan, you actually take into consideration your own capacity, and you think you are enough. And even when people disappoint you, or somebody or the process disappoints you, but remember that you are always enough. This is simply because even your shadow is going to leave you when you get into the dark. So you should know that in setting up that goal, you can only count on yourself, and you will stay determined, and you will work your way out to reach that particular goal morally and legally. That brings us to the sixth point, which is simply not planning for obstacles, right? And I think this is obvious, because along the way, be it foreseen or unforeseen circumstances, foreseen or unforeseen obstacles would come your way. So planning, that's why I mentioned of the fact that you should be an informed pessimist, right? So when you are an informed pessimist, you would be able to actually not that you are being negative or something, but you're just conscious about the realities of life, and you've come to accept it for what it is, and you've decided to battle on and to be ready for any challenge that would come your way. So you have to plan. That's why it should not just be a wish, it should be a plan, because in your plan means that you will have a room for both foreseen and unforeseen circumstances. So when they come, you'll be able to face them and be victorious. And that brings us to the seventh point, which is not being honest to yourself. Okay, when you are setting up the goal, is it to impress somebody? Is there a real need for the goal that you are setting, or is to impress somebody? All right. So that is also a very, very important point, because you must be true to yourself, and actually set goals that you think there is a need. And by need, for instance, if you're an entrepreneur, probably there's a need of a particular product that you think you can provide. You're not just doing it because everybody's is going that way, or everybody producing the same product, or everybody. No, you are doing it simply because there is a need. If you want to lose weight, you want to lose weight for a particular reason. Is it medical? Is it to please your spouse? Whatever the reason is, let that reason be your ignition, right? If point, which is actually delaying the start. All right. So it's always good to have these rosy ideas in our heads, right? For instance, before I actually record this particular podcast, I woke up and the idea just came that since it's a new year, why not start my podcast, or by recording a video on, let's say, on let's say mistakes to avoid if you want your New Year resolution to work. And I just reflected on my past experiences, did some research also, and learned from other people's experiences, and decided to record a video. All right. But recording the video was not just like something so easy, right? Because it was like my head got swollen with a whole lot of ideas, all these points. I'm like, how am I going to explain each and every one of them? Recording my podcast for the first time, how am I going to I've had a camera for some time now, but I haven't used it to record a video yet. How am I going to get the distance right, the focus, blah blah blah. Had all this in mind. Even setting up the mic, all of that. But I had to start, as the way say, show up. Once you show up, then you begin to gain clarity. It's often the fear of the unknown. But once you start, then you see that you are more than even enough to achieve what you've decided to do. So that is what I have to say. Yes, start. They will say shoot for the moon, or is it shoot for the stars? If you cannot reach the stars, then you land on the moon. Right? And the ninth mistake to avoid is actually not acknowledging and celebrating the little progresses that we make, and sometimes to over celebrating, in other words, getting too comfortable. All right. So with regards to the former, what I mean by not acknowledging and celebrating the little progresses that we make is that little drops fill up a mighty ocean, right? When you see a mighty ocean, it's simply made up of small drops of water. So what that means is that at every point, you should be grateful. For instance, if the universe grants you, the universe will not just grant you if you don't do anything, but you put in some effort, then he grants you 2 oranges. You put in some more effort, he gives you 5. Now, when he granted you 2, and you were like, wow, I never knew I was going to get 2. Then you started putting in the work again. Then he gives you 5. Then you're like, really? You put in the work again. Now he gives you maybe a triple of 5, 15, in that order, right? So by celebrating, I simply don't mean however you want to celebrate, that is up to you. But what I mean by celebrating is actually appreciating how far you've come and letting that motivate you to achieve greater or reach greater heights. I am of the philosophy that we need more discipline than motivation in reality, all right? Because when you are disciplined, motivation often comes from external sources or circumstances, right? It's almost like maybe I want to do something, then I want to start jogging. Then as soon as I put on my jogging attire, I go out and realize that it's cloudy and it will soon be raining. I'm like, I'm no longer motivated. Or probably nobody ever said, you are doing great. I'm like, then there's no need continuing. Right? So I'm of the philosophy that discipline, self-discipline is more important than motivation. However, self-motivation is equally as important as what? Self-discipline. I did not say motivation from external circumstances, because that one, you are not in control of that. It could come. If it comes, fine. If it doesn't, even if when it comes, sometimes you wonder, is it genuine? You don't know. But let's assume it's genuine, then good. But what if it doesn't come? But self-discipline and self-motivation are key to the ignition. All right. So that's what I mean by celebrating the little progresses that you make. And on the contrary, you should not get too comfortable. All right. Because sometimes we set goals that sometimes we think probably it would have been harder to reach those goals, but along the line, we realize that it was even much easier than we thought. So when we start getting the results, sometimes we just chill and relax and start partying. When I say partying, however you celebrate, that is up to you. But you actually get too comfortable to the point that you even forget your destination. Somebody said if you were going to kill an antelope and then along the way you met a lizard, the lizard is nothing but a distraction. Of course, I'm not saying you should not take advantage of, because sometimes even greater opportunities come your way, much, much greater than what you had planned to achieve, right? But that is up to you to now prioritize and to see, is it worth it stopping at that point to take advantage of, or are you in capacity to achieve both goals, even if it's not within the same year? All that is possible. One mistake to avoid is simply not remembering, or more especially not knowing from the get-go why you are setting the goal that you are setting for yourself. Why do you want to achieve? Why do you want to buy that car? Why do you want to lose weight? Or why do you want to pass your exams? Why do you want to marry? Why? Sometimes the objective is clearly defined from the beginning, but somewhere along the way, we lose God, or we just become negligent. And then once we forget about why we started, then at that point, our focus starts drifting. Because remember that wherever your focus goes, that's where your attention goes. And wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy goes. So that is to say, if you want to stay focused and not distracted, the more focused you are, the more concentrated your energy is on whatever you are focused on doing, and the easier you will achieve it. Ask yourself, why is it that when you look at the axe, the axe that we use, or even the knife, why is the cutting edge always so tiny? By science, we all understand that it's simply to make sure that whenever you apply force, all the energy, will be, or pressure will be, all the pressure will be concentrated at that tiny edge. And that forces it into whatever that you are using it to cut. So focus is very, very, very important. And the only way to remain focused is to know why you started. That must always be in your mind. So to recap, okay, or to resume all that I've said, always remember to plan your resolution, okay? That makes you take care of any foreseen or unforeseen obstacles. And that also makes it what? That makes you also committed, because it's not just a mere wish. It's something that you have set out to do. So you stay committed and you become courageous. You mobilize all the resources that you can, starting with what you just have. And then you will be what? Confident. Remember Marcus Garvey said, without confidence, you are twice defeated in the race of life. So, on this note, I wish you all the very best. But that depends on you. I can wish you, but you should not be wishing yourself. Rather, you should plan and execute.